Good morning, everybody. So today is day 2 of Airventure, and right now we are on our way to Warbird Alley to go fly the Ford Trimotor. So this is my first time on a plane. I think any of our first times on a plane this old, so should be a lot of fun. Maybe we'll get to meet up with some other friends today, and we'll see where the adventure leads. Sun's washing it out. Say, 9. The opener Blackfly. We watched this fly last night. Pretty neat little aircraft right here. I guess actually we watched that one over there fly. Because they were broadcasting copyrighted music at Airventure, I'm going to have to do voiceover from this point on. So we got to do the simulator at the opener Blackfly tent. This was really awesome experience, and I'm super glad that they had this out. My dad, my brother, and I all got to experience it, and it was a really neat. It was a really neat and very intuitive to fly. I have a lot of experience flying drones. I've got hundreds of hours now of flight time logged with my various drones, and so I picked it up pretty quickly. But even my dad, who has no experience flying any kind of aircraft, he picked it up really quickly within the first 5 minutes. My brother also flies drones a lot, and he picked it up really quickly. What I found was interesting is that there are 2 sticks, as you can see, but the left and right sticks, those aren't actually both necessary for flying at the same time. You only use either the left or either the right. And that is actually just for redundancy. The opener Blackfly has 3 separate, completely redundant and independent flight systems, so that way if any 2 of those fail, is that you can still fly. It also has a ballistic parachute, and even though I'm not sponsored by them or anything, I'm just really excited about this aircraft because it's kind of the first, to me anyway, very practical electric ultralight. Even though it's not necessarily going to be for like commuting back and forth to work and whatnot, I think it kind of fits the niche that the original like Quicksilver ultralights filled in the fixed wing category. It's a very fun to fly aircraft. It's very easy to fly. You just kind of get in and then you go fly and go have a little adventure. The range isn't super great, but they're working on that, and even now is the range is in excess of 30 miles, which is more than sufficient for just a fun flying kind of adventure. Although if you're in, say, Canada, where their ultralight laws are a bit more lenient, is potentially up to 60 miles of range. They're limited in the United States because it can weigh a maximum of 550 pounds by Part 103 rules. So it was super easy to fly. I think it's really neat how much testing they've put into it. They've now tested it over 500,000, 500,000 cycles, which is just a ton. And they've given the whole propulsion system as a whole 109,000 tests, which is like equivalent to 139 circumnavigations of the globe, which is really crazy. So, and over 4,000 flights they've actually flown with payload, which is, that's a lot. So I'm really impressed that they're actually, and to me they seem to be the first electric VTOL company that's really testing. And they're really, they've tested it and they've proven it and they've showed that it's a reliable design. So now they're going to move on to production, hopefully very soon. So I'm excited for that. I'm always excited for new aircraft. So after this, we went off and we explored Warbird Alley some more. Went and checked out some of the military aircraft in Boeing Plaza, and then it was time for the Trimotor ride again. So here goes that. Did you like that, Niall?
That was awesome. thing's really big for a helicopter.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
A stack of L-39s in the Delta. Honeywell airplane that's up there, that is the billboard, if you will.
Alright, we are going to ride the Ford
They're
Trimotor.
taking us to the other runway, and we'll just stay on the tram until they're ready for us to start loading
Okay.
on the Trimotor.
So you guys hear the whole time?
Yeah, makes sense.
Get your seatbelts buckled.
Sir.
Y'all good? We're good. Then you can handle your own after you got those. We're good.
We are currently on board a 1928 Ford Trimotor. And this is my dad's first time riding the Trimotor. Actually, it's all of our first time riding the Trimotor. But we're all really excited. Should be a lot of fun. Here at EAA Airventure Oshkosh on day 2 so far.
The Trimotor ride was a ton of fun, and the Trimotor has a really storied history. The Trimotor was first, the Trimotor we're flying here was first built in 1929 and is serial number 69. It was originally owned by Eastern Air Transport, and it's now owned by the EAA, and they use it for tours like these and as part of their nonprofit. The Ford Trimotor was originally built to prove to the public, who at the time was very skeptical of aviation, coming out of the barnstorming era from World War I, as many of the planes were very not reliable, and crashes were frequent, and fatalities were common. It was built to prove that aviation could be safe, reliable, and fast. It didn't actually need 3 engines, but they built it with 3 engines for reliability reasons, because at the time, aviation engines were still a developing technology. The Trimotors were primarily used for a 48-hour transcontinental flight. At the time, flying at night was very, very hard, and so their solution was they didn't. The passengers, when they were flying from New York, though the service ran from New York to LA and then back from LA back to New York. And if you're traveling from New York to LA, you would start in New York City and you would board a train, and then they would eat dinner, and the train would run all night to Port Columbus, Ohio. Then they'd disembark and they'd go to the airport, and they would fly then in a Ford Trimotor all day. because the trimotor only had a cruising speed of right around 100 knots, which is not very fast. And after an all-day flight, they would land in Winoka, Kansas, and then they would board another train all night to Clovis, New Mexico. Then from Clovis, then they would take the final leg of the journey in a trimotor, which would get them just north of Los Angeles by nightfall and before that 48-hour cutoff. The trimotor was used in the service for a couple of years before it was retired from this role as World War II came on and aviation technology quickly picked up the pace and the trimotor was left in the dust. It was used, though, for many, many years after that, the oldest example being used for another 60 years, being used for mining, freight operations, and hauling cargo deep into the forest and jungle for mining companies, because the short takeoff and landing capabilities of the trimotor were nearly unmatched for how much cargo it could haul. So this trimotor is one of only 8 left in the world that's still flying, which makes this a very special experience. To me, it almost had an Airstream-esque feel. It kind of just gave... I've been in older airplanes before. I mean, most airplanes you see flying around are built in the late 70s or 60s. There was something special about the trimotor. Just looking out and just thinking, like, man, this is how people traveled, nearly 100 years ago. And also pretty cool is that or maybe not cool, depending on how you look at it, is that there was no engine gauges inside the instrument cluster of the trimotor for the outer 2 pod engines. The outer 2 pod engines, the instruments were actually directly installed onto the pods, and the pilots and co-pilot would look out the window to read the instruments. This is one of the reasons that the trimotor is a 2 crew aircraft, because the pilot physically can't see the passenger side engine gauges because they're out of his line of sight. The window and the window frame is blocking his view, so there has to be a co-pilot there to read the instruments for him. So yeah, as we come to a landing here, this was a super awesome adventure. It was really cool, very, very loud, but I'm really glad we got to take this little trip in the trimotor. Once we landed, we went off to go meet up with our friends Jared Gestes and Levi Nogas. Levi was my flight instructor for a few years, and he gave me some training in his kit box a couple of years ago. So we went out to go watch them perform in the STOL demonstration, and then we called it a night. So yeah, here's that, the STOL demonstration.
That is one line. Do you see how long it took for the tail to get down?
Jared Justice up next to the Kitbox 4 Speedster. 67-foot takeoff roll for Hal. Power up tail way up in the Kitbox. Boom. Little over 100-foot takeoff roll. 140-foot takeoff roll for Jared Justice. Up next is the 3/4 scale Fiesler Storch Levi Nogas from Killeen, Texas. 140 on that last takeoff. Lindbergh, way too early on the rotate. But he gets that tall, lanky geared Storch off. Now, here's your favorite, race 44, Steve Henry with the Yamaha Apex snowmobile engine powered Just Aircraft Highlander. Now let me get this right tonight, using a Skytrax. Look at that performance. That's 10,000 RPM off of that Yamaha engine. Using a supercharger and no nitrous. 51-foot takeoff roll. If he locks up the brakes and puts the coals to it, it'll still drag it off the ground. The brakes will not hold that aircraft down. 99-foot landing distance for Hal Stockman. The Kitbox 4. Good job. Getting her stopped, what is that? 110, 20, 30, 140 feet or so. Oops, what? Oh, 181 for the previous, right? No, that was 181 for the Kitbox 4. Here comes that Fiesler Storch with that long, lanky oleo landing gear. full flaps. Easing it up to the line, don't scratch. Oop. Oh, scratch. Okay, here comes the man to beat, Steve Henry, on final now. He's going to bring it in at a fairly normal approach speed, and then watch he'll bleed that last bit of airspeed off and sneak up on the line at a very low airspeed. But he's going to wait till he gets nice and close to the ground. Now he's going to play that pitch and power and drop it right on. Lock him up, yeah!
So day 2 at Airventure came to a close. It was really awesome getting to see Levi and Jared fly the STOL competition. On the next day, day 3, we actually got to go flying with Levi in his Fiesler Storch, which was pretty awesome. So that video should be out relatively soon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.